Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Experience Kills. I am your host Ben, and with me today is Richard.
Hello everybody.
I am continuing my ongoing research into cults so that I can be the best cult leader possible. And Richard, you're going to be my first member, aren't you? My first follower, my first devoted member of the flock.
Getting worried about you, mate, because people are sending you codes for this stuff. Like, they're choosing it. They're choosing you for this. So Church in the Darkness was the last one.
Yeah.
And now you're playing, what's this new one called?
Sagebrush. So Sagebrush is brought to us by Redact Games, which is really just one guy, so I'm just going to give him the credit, and his name is Nate Behrens. Nate Behrens we'll go with, from Ann Arbor in the US. And yeah, it's another game about cults, though it's a very different type of game from A Church in the Darkness. This has actually been out for a little while. This has been out since the start of August on Xbox, and I just hadn't noticed it. And yeah, I reached out to them, to be fair, Richard. I reached out to them because I want to learn as much as I can about
I'm not sure that's better.
leading people. It's probably worse, to be honest. But so Sagebrush has a sort of a low poly, lo-fi 3D look to it. It's all played from first person, and the narrative is conveyed mostly through sort of audio tapes and notes and things that you find in the environment. And basically, you're going to this location of a cult after the fact. I've got to be careful because I don't want to spoil it, because this whole game is very short, 90 minutes, 2 hours, if that, and it's a case of just a single narrative, really no replayability, very kind of linear experience, which means you're going to find all the things you need to find. You're going to get 1,000 gamer score or a platinum trophy very, very easily. If this has a platinum trophy, that's not how necessarily PlayStation games work, is it? Now I think about it. But you'll definitely get 1,000 gamer score, and I played this on Xbox, and I got 1,000 gamer score without really any trouble. And it's a bit investigatory, it's a bit poking around, it's a bit just learning about what's happened, with a, I would say, quite nice conclusion and revelation at the end that left me pondering things a little bit. I really liked how the third act wrapped up and ramped up as well, and yeah, I enjoyed this game. I'm not sure I love the visual style, but you know, if it's one guy, not many resources, he's certainly committed to a look here. And yeah, it kind of reminded me of Doom if it wasn't set in space on Mars or in Hell. It has that same very low poly sort of sprite look to it. Very, very, very low resolution textures, very flat. But it's not terrible by any means. It's just that's the look they've gone for, and it works quite well. Do you have any questions or anything?
So we're talking like walking simulator vibe here, aren't we? So it's
100%
something like Everyone's Gone to the Rapture, where people have just been there and you're figuring out what happened, sort of thing, is it?
It's a bit more of an indeterminate amount of time since what's happened there. It's years, though, I would say. Things have run down a bit. Things are a bit dilapidated. It's been some time since it all went down. It's set in the 90s, much like all good cult video games are from that era, it would seem, that when cults were the hot property. I'm really looking forward to bringing that back.
I like that the visuals are set in the 90s to keep with the theme. That's cool.
Yeah, we'll go with that. We'll say that's why he did that. Yeah, we'll absolutely say that. It's not, I wouldn't say it's fun, but it's interesting, and I enjoyed the story. I think the voice work is okay. It's definitely not the worst, but you could tell these people are not like at their top of the game. They're not, Nathan Drake type quality. They're not, Nolan North or Troy Bakers. But, it's a game that is all told through, it's predominantly told through this voice mechanic, where there's narration, and then there are like the tapes. And then there's plenty of diary pages, and the writing's, again, fine. It's okay. It's not particularly standout. But I think when you're taking on subject matter like this, it's not perhaps the most nuanced I've seen or read about, now that I am falling down the cult hole quite deeply. However, it does the job.
You said cult hole.
I did. Did you like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything you want to know? I mean, it's a brief game. This will probably be a brief review, but yeah. Anything you want to know about Sagebrush?
don't want to ask too many questions because I don't want spoilers. I get the feeling this might be one that I will play on the basis that easy achievements. I like that. Don't know. So no replayability. Do you know how much it costs? I'm just looking. $5.99 apparently.
Yeah, it's low price.
Does that represent value, do we think?
I think so. I mean, if you think of $5.99 is like price of renting a movie almost, maybe a little bit more, but it's in that similar area. And you're looking at, I'd say, 60 to 120 minutes here of gameplay. Especially, I noticed when I went online, I found a lot of guides for like the achievement guides. And I think the longest one is about 35 to 40 minutes, and that's playing the entire game. But obviously knowing what to do and rushing through it just to get the achievements. But, I think a natural playthrough length, you're looking at about 90 minutes to 2 hours. And I think for that, the price is definitely about right. There's obviously a lot of work has gone into this when it comes to, the visual style means that it's probably not the hardest game to put together. However, there's artistic design, good level design, good locations that feel realistic, and then all the voice work as well, and all the writing that's gone into this. So this wasn't something that was chucked out in 5 minutes. It's certainly not shovelware. There's some real thought and creativity has gone into this. And I think if you're looking for a slightly different experience, something that's going to sit there as it'll sit quite nicely next to games such as Gone Home and Dear Esther and things like that. It's that very focused walking simulator that's just around this core narrative,
Mechanically, how is it? So, beyond which I think deliberately retrograde visuals, I think it's got quite a strong visual style. Beyond that, how does it feel mechanically? Like, the criticism of walking simulators is often that they're too ponderous, too keen to make you look hard and walk slow.
Right, now there's a run, so you can run around, and it's a lot of poking in corners. I found one of the issues I had was the camera movement isn't always the best when you're trying to like interact with an object. It can be a bit finicky, it can be a bit overly sensitive. When there's a light switch and you're just trying to waggle the camera over it until it goes, turn on the light. It felt like it was a bit overly precise and a bit unforgiving in that area. But, you kind of you get around that. You get used to it after a little while. I'm not sure there's any settings for tuning that or anything like that. It's very bare bones when it comes to that sort of stuff. But
maybe that's based in its PC heritage because it's a Steam game originally, right? So I suppose with mouse it would be easier. Yeah,
it could be that. It could be the port to controller hasn't worked 100% as well as it could have. But no, I like this game from Sagebrush and Redact Games. This is an interesting experience. I think there's enough to it that you'll take something away, especially at the end. It's not treading any particular new ground, but at the same time, at the low price, why not? And it's not exactly going to be a massive drain on your time either. So I'd give it a go.
Yeah. Put it on the list.
Put it on the list. So that brings us to the end of another episode of Experience Kills. I've been your host, Ben, and with me today, as almost always, has been Richard. So thank you for that, Rich.
You're welcome.
And we'll be back soon with much more games. But before you disappear into the recesses of the internet, please give us a like and subscribe on this YouTube video. You can also find all the audio versions of this particular video available on Spotify, on iTunes, on a direct RSS feed. You can find us on Twitter at Experience Kills as well. You can find me at DIYE. And Richard, where can they find you?
I'm at Colonel Red on Twitter.
And until next time, I bid you adieu.
Farewell!